Hello, I'm William Drew, the Director of Content for the World's 50 Best Restaurants, and I'm delighted to welcome you all to Food Meets Hope by San Pellegrino. This is the first in a series of events over the next 3 days that make up the 50 Best Recovery Summit. This summit forms part of the 50 Best for Recovery programme, which replaced the publication of the list of the World's 50 Best Restaurants 2020 and the usual events that surround that. Instead, the 50 Best team and its partners, including San Pellegrino and Aquapanna, have focused their energy on supporting the gastronomic sector through advice and content, but also financially through fundraising, through donations to non-profit organisations and through direct grants. The 50 Best Recovery Summit plays a vital role in this support programme, bringing the gastronomic world together online to share learnings, to promote best practice, to explore change and present visions of a post-pandemic world for restaurants and diners alike. So do check out the full schedule of events, which are free for anyone to join and participate in, taking place across our digital media platforms over the coming 3 days. So let's kick things off today with Food Meets Hope by San Pellegrino. We've divided this session into 3 themes, looking at recovery, inclusivity and evolution. We start with recovery. More than 230 restaurants and bars received grants from 50 Best, thanks to the generosity of food lovers across the world. Let's hear from some restaurant owners on the front line of the battle to survive and ultimately thrive in the face of 2020's unique challenges.
Taking a walk to my workplace.
Good morning from beautiful Fredericksburg, Virginia.
Hola equipo de 50 Best. Bueno, muchas gracias por habernos elegido.
Estou a caminho do meu trabalho, mercado municipal, acabei de sair de casa, moro a uma quadra apenas.
Through this global pandemic, we've had no cases of COVID-19 here, but that hasn't stopped it having a massive effect on us. After having this restaurant open for 25 years, we completely shut down for a period of 6 weeks.
Before COVID, we were definitely, growing as a business. At the stage, we were actually looking at taking a few extra people on and promoting people and just growing the whole thing exponentially a little bit. And unfortunately, COVID kind of put a very sudden stop to that. I don't think anyone really predicted that it would have like an effect for the amount of time that it did.
It was all fame, glory, and fireworks for us. Early March, they shut down our doors. Everyone was sent home, and we've been closed 6 months. I felt personally like a car with a brake that almost hits a wall because we were forced to stop everything. And everything that we were working for, the new menu changes, the new producers, the new distributors, the new guests, the new activities and events we had planned, everything went to dust.
I thought seriously about closing down the restaurant, but decided that it was important for us to keep the kitchen open and keep our staff working.
It did affect me a lot, and it still is, but I'm taking it day by day. I don't have someone to call, like I need this for my son, so it's just me. I'm a single parent, so everything, it's me. So with here, this place being open, I'm very thankful for that.
Ações como a de 50 melhores me fizeram chorar. Chorar dessa vez de alegria. Obrigada a todos os envolvidos. E abraço forte da família Maia Boys.
We try to help the local police and also the emergency services, and we also try to help doctors and nurses as well.
In a period of 2 weeks, we quickly developed a delivery model from scratch. We used our local staff, the bartenders and service staff to do the delivery using their own motorbikes. That way we can keep all the staff employed.
The restaurant had to improvise, so we had to do takeaway, something that we don't normally do. We as the staff were involved in the deliveries. We learned a lot as well, so I came out more resilient, and also I learned a lot of things that you have to be prepared no matter what.
During the pause of lockdown, we were all able to think about what's important to us, what matters to us. We've developed workshops where we discover each other's strengths and areas for improvement.
The restaurant can be great, the food amazing, but if it cannot survive financially, then it does not have a future and cannot make a difference in the world. This grant and recognition from the World 50 Best will allow Ang Ang as a restaurant to survive.
So the grant really helped us pay staff and to keep the restaurant open and still dream alive.
We've been following all the 50 best pages for a while, and it felt honestly like something that was too good to be true. We only had in mind the salaries of our colleagues, so it's very nice to see that the application was successful.
This grant, it's helped us particularly with holding on to our staff. Our staff are what makes Mudbrick special, holding on to those staff, and so far we've really managed to do that, so that is awesome.
So you are a lifesaver. My team appreciates it. I'm gonna get in there, it's bright and early in the morning. I'm first in, last out, taking care of my team because of you.
Y bueno, un poco la idea es de la donación que vamos a recibir de ustedes es volver a poner en marcha el local.
Of waiting, we will slowly try not to get back to that, but to come with a better version of it. We want to influence sustainability, we want to influence poverty, and we want to do it all as one, as a team, as a family.
Been some good things that come out of it. I can see that local chefs and local restaurants are working closer together as a community, supporting each other, going to each other restaurants and bars.
The staff that also stood by us during this time and creating an area where we really can develop them, and whether it be here or someone else, that it also moves forward in that regard.
What we're looking now is for a better future, and we're positive that good times are coming. It has to be like that. There should be a happy ending for all of us. Muchas gracias.
Welcome back. You're watching Food Meets Hope by San Pellegrino, part of the all-virtual recovery summit from the World's 50 Best Restaurants organisation. We're exploring themes of recovery, inclusivity and evolution today. Next, we have a series of 3 short but powerful monologues on the theme of inclusivity. Is the restaurant and dining sector as diverse and inclusive as we'd like it to be? And how can we move towards a more equitable and just future? Shortly you'll hear from the brilliant Ivan Brem of Nuri in Singapore on what binds us together as humans. And also from Daniela Soto-Innes of Cosme and Atla in New York on gender, ethnicity, ageism and optimism. But first, let's hear from Chef Erick Williams of Virtue in Chicago.
I don't think anyone wants to find themselves on the outside of the circle. Yet we continue to draw circles that don't involve the greater sum of humanity. Hi, my name's Erick Williams. I am the chef owner of a Virtue restaurant in Chicago, Illinois, in the United States of America. I've worked in the restaurant industry for a little shy of 30 years, and that's given me a lot of perspective. I currently own and operate Virtue Restaurant, where I'm the chef and the owner. And it's been an interesting road, starting at one space and navigating through and ending up on the opposite side. We put a lot of emphasis on developing people. And we believe that if we develop people, that they will have tangible skills that translate not just in the workplace, but also in their everyday lives. And we believe that that is such a culture-rich environment that it becomes infectious. It literally bleeds into how we provide hospitality and service to every single person that walks in the door. Interestingly enough, throughout my career, I haven't ever been judged by my race or my color inside of a restaurant. Most cases have been after I've exited the restaurant. There were situations where I would provide service or greet a table or go out to ascertain satisfaction as it related to a guest. And guests would be in awe when I walked on the dining room floor, or they would be very, very hospitable to me and very welcoming to me in that environment. And, you know, an hour later, shortly after my shift would end, if I walked out the front door and ran into that same person, there would be times where women would clutch their purse, or a man would draw his mate closer to him because they were in fear, or they thought for some strange reason that maybe I was a threat, not knowing that I was the same black guy that they were just smiling and joking with, you know, an hour before that situation occurred. I think the way for us to change how we identify one another is through greater exposure. I think the exposure to African Americans as it relates to kitchens and running restaurants, owning restaurants, is very limited. One of the many things that we do at Virtue is there is an emphasis on having African Americans in positions that are guest facing. Restaurants are recognized, they're highlighted, and they are observed based on their ability to give back to the community. But what does that community look like? And so I would challenge our operators around the world to rethink, who is it that we're developing? Who is it that we're training, and why? Restaurants need more purpose. We can no longer use French cookery or the French style of cookery as the foundation for every module or every approach to cooking throughout our country. There are 7 continents that break into multiple styles of cooking, multiple formats, a vast variety of ingredient bases. And I think it's time for us to remove the old guard. I think that the French have been very, very effective in structuring kitchens and creating a hierarchy in kitchens. However, it's limiting in its approach to how we view our ingredient bases and what style and technique looks like. I believe as it relates to racial justice, we've all gotten a healthy dose of reality. And I don't think this is just the white community of restaurant operators or the Asian community of restaurant operators. I think what COVID has taught us is that what affects one of us affects all of us. And I believe that has been compounded by the visuals that we've seen of people losing their lives at the hands of law enforcement. We're physically watching criminals act out and hide behind badges. And it shouldn't be acceptable. It shouldn't be acceptable in the restaurant community. It shouldn't be acceptable in any business community. It shouldn't be acceptable in any form of government or in any form of civilization. And I believe, again, that as restaurateurs and operators focus on the necessary things, and that is the development of people of color, the development and training of people that allows them to gain greater access, that we solve many of the problems that we're facing by allowing people the opportunity to earn with dignity, to earn with respect, and to earn with their own labor. I am a very hopeful person. As I look at the catastrophic damage that the pandemic has created, not just in America, but around the world, I've also witnessed people advocate and stand like I have never seen people advocate in my entire life. And what that means to me is that our industry has been awakened in a way that I've never seen before. People have been awakened to their crimes of commission as well as omission. We are all involved in providing equitable space for every human that walks in our door and wants to be a part of this great community that we call the hospitality community. I look forward to seeing more diversity. I look forward to seeing operators and owners and chefs that look like me. I look forward to seeing people of color writing and defining not just this moment, but defining the moments that have got us to this point. I look forward to media being more inclusive and more equitable. And I look forward to a celebration that feels like the world that we live in, as diverse as it is. I look forward to a community that has purpose, with that emphasis being around equitable space and around equality.
Next up, we're going to hear from the current holder of the world's best female chef title. From New York City, here is Daniela Soto-Innes.
The restaurant industry will not be the same, and we should not look for it to be the same. Changes need to happen, and we need to learn how to do so. Hi, I'm Daniela Soto-Innes. I'm from Mexico City, but I live in New York. I was born in Mexico City, and when I was 12 years old, I moved to Texas. Being an immigrant and a Mexican that moved to the US is everything to me. It's my DNA, and it's who I am. It's the reason why I always will fight for immigrant rights and represent everyone that is different and embrace them as long as I'm here alive, so they can thrive equally as everyone else. I think all the time we evolve, and there are certain things in life that touch us and teach us how to treat people differently. During the pandemic and its constant evolution of our minds, but during these times, I realized more and more how cooking and how restaurants are just always a form of evolving art. So I want to make sure that everyone that works around me at all times can be themselves in any form that they want to be. When I first opened Cosme with Enrique, I was 23 years old and really, really young. I had been cooking for 10 years already, and that's pretty much professionally, and that's pretty much all I knew. And it was a natural way of me to just move in the kitchen, because I grew up with my grandma, great-grandmother, and mom that were incredible cooks. So when I came into Cosme, I wanted to feel the same way, and I wanted to make sure that we had a family ambience, but also a competitive ambience within ourselves, but making sure that everyone thrives at the same time. So the team was the same age as me, and at the beginning, no one really wanted to work with someone young and a woman, really, because there were not really a lot of women in New York running kitchens, and especially with a very successful chef like Enrique. So I just wanted everyone to move at the same rate as me and to thrive and to make sure that they all have the same opportunities as me. I grew up playing basketball and being a swimmer, so my dad was everything to us in the way of how to move and how to communicate with people. And it's always, I have two sisters, so it's always a team effort. And without the people next to you, you can't thrive, you can't succeed. And for me, that's always been the way of where I see kitchens or teams in general. If everything that is happening right now is not changing you, then you need to start opening your eyes a little bigger. This is the opportunity to reset and to really see what you can do in order to be more inclusive, what you can do in order to listen to people a little bit better. And it's a whole new perspective. When the Black Lives Matter movement started again because it has been here forever. When it started again, we were just able to open the patio and at Atla, and we had this opportunity to reopen the restaurant. And the first thought of all of us was like, we need to close. We need to close and support this movement. This is important. This is something that we need to be educated about. And without joining and without supporting, we will not be able to know what it is. And we will never be educated enough to understand how it's like to be in other people's shoes. My hope for the near future, or for today, starting today, is that people are not judged by their ethnicity, their gender, their accents, and how they look like when they walk into your door.
For our third and final film on the theme of inclusivity, we head over to Singapore to hear from a cerebral and celebrated Brazilian-born chef and researcher who has crafted his own philosophy of crossroads cuisine. From Nuri and the newly opened Appetite, welcome to Ivan Brem.
Hello everyone. I'm from Brazil originally, and I come from a very diverse background, as most Brazilians do. I was born in a small town called São Paulo, and my family comes from everywhere: Germany, Russia, Italy and Spain, Syria and Lebanon. When we created Nuri, the restaurant was open with the commitment to explore human connectivity, interactions cross-culturally over time. We wanted to cook food that was about bringing people together. And I don't mean it by like a sharing platter of sliders. The idea was always to explore a food tradition in the context of all of the traditions it's been influenced by. We came to call this crossroads cooking, the act of cooking food that explore these connection moments that exist. That is to say, exploring why pizza is the way that it is, and where is it that different cultures came together to actually provide Italy with the framework that allowed pizza to be created. So we like to cook food from that place. And this for us is crossroads. Obviously, this view is deeply, rooted in the conviction I have, and so a lot of people do as well, that behind every border and every cultural identification we also have something that's much broader and shared cross-culturally in this big pan-scan that is humanity. 2 years ago, we opened a research center called Appetite. That research center is now a physical space. Before it was a virtual one that was really dedicated to exploring the root of our cultural influences in our cultural evolution. Why is it that we eat the way that we do, and who's responsible for that? I've become incredibly fascinated by the culture of the other, and in that process realizing that that culture is also mine in so many ways. So when we talk about inclusion and inclusivity, for us, the topic is one that doesn't need to be promoted or fostered. It's one that needs to be realized. And the difference there is screaming. You know, when we talk about promoting a more inclusive workspace, we are approaching the topic from the standpoint of separation, division, borders. You are very different from who I am. But when inclusivity is a question of realization, really, we are coming from the standpoint that we are already very close together, you know, and in the restaurant, that not only takes form in the food that we cook, but it also manifests in the type of employees we hire, in the type of layout and design that we have. Nuri is a very gender-balanced restaurant, very diverse as far as cultural backgrounds are concerned and religious denominations. And we try actually, it doesn't require trying. We continue to remain open to that influence consistently. We don't have strict hierarchical systems. We opt for a very horizontal, flat hierarchy where people can contribute as much as they can with their background, so that we can meet somewhere in a synthetic kind of place in the middle that promotes our view of the world, which is one of community, of social balance and equilibrium, I guess. What this pandemic is showing us, apart from the fact that we all have to haul ass and work really hard to stay afloat, is that borders are somewhat inflated things, you know. and that these cultural separations that sometimes we are prepared to fight and die for, oppress and discriminate, that a virus, for example, doesn't care about this. And realistically speaking, culture has evolved over time in a way that is very much agnostic. It's essentially appropriates and uses things as a sponge. And sometimes this is not a pretty thing. Sometimes, unfortunately, it involves violent interactions between people. Sometimes it involves beautiful interactions, commerce and diplomacy. But on the other side, you have, the trade of enslaved people and colonization. But the more that we're talking about these things as if humanity as a whole has partaken in this dialogue and discussion, then in that process, a certain wall of separation disappears. And we can, through information and shining a light on topics that are a bit difficult, maybe approach the topic of inclusivity in the context of realizing that we've been through this, collectively. The world has gone through this. Like we are right now, the world is going through a very difficult moment. Imagine a tree and its trunk and its branches and the foliage. Culture is the same. I mean, we come from a very similar trunk and we've evolved over time. Sometimes we look leaf to leaf as if we were very separate. But if you just look back a little bit, we're connected by a branch that's connected to a trunk. And that vision or dream of inclusion then becomes almost irrelevant. It's there, whether you like to acknowledge or not. But I guess in this context, to talk about our differences, not as essential, but as circumstantial, is the beginning really of an inclusive look in the world. But when we operate from that standpoint, the one where we are part of a larger group of people that might believe in different things or eat their yogurt a little bit differently, we will act in a more inclusive fashion. And so will the way that we hire, and the way that we cook, and the way that we greet our guests be more inclusive.
For the next and final segment of this event, Food Meets Hope by San Pellegrino, we're looking at the evolution of the restaurant sector with a number of leading chefs and restaurateurs from across the world in the form of a group discussion. How is the restaurant and dining world going to evolve further? So let me introduce our 4 participants. They're joining us literally from across the globe. And if we go from west to east, it means that we can start with a French-born chef who's now at home in San Francisco, California. Welcome to Dominique Crenn.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Dominique. And Dominique is a chef and restaurateur whose flagship Atelier Crenn features on the world's 50 best restaurants list. She has a range of establishments, including her own farm in the Bay Area, and she's a long-time advocate and campaigner for change in the way that restaurants operate and the way we treat our fellow humans. She's also just published her own memoir, Rebel Chef. Great to have you with us, Dominique.
Thank you for having me.
Next, we move to Europe, and specifically to Berlin, to say hi to Tim Raue.
Hi, guys.
Hi, Tim. Tim is another hugely successful chef whose restaurant is a regular on the 50 best list. Across his various establishments in Germany and beyond, he pivoted fast and successfully in the face of the pandemic to keep his businesses thriving, showing the agility that has been so prevalent across the hospitality world. So, guten Tag, Tim. Next, next, we head south to the Mediterranean coast, to the Côte d'Azur, to say hello to Julia Ramos Colagreco.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Julia. And Julia is the director of Mirazur in Menton, where she works with her husband and chef Mauro Colagreco. Mirazur is, of course, the current holder of the title of the world's best restaurant, sponsored by San Pellegrino and Aquapana. Julia is originally from Brazil, a country that's been suffering as severely as any during this ongoing crisis. So, bienvenue and bem-vinda, Julia.
Merci.
Finally, heading east to Hong Kong, we are delighted to be joined by Richard Ekebus, fresh from service. Richard is the culinary director of Amber in the landmark Mandarin Oriental Hotel, and his restaurant has recently redefined what luxury dining means in a contemporary and sustainability-conscious world. He's also been experiencing the ups and downs of operating in a volatile environment in the city in terms of virus-related restrictions, but also politically. Great to have you with us, Richard. And thank you to all of you for joining us for this session of Food Meets Hope by San Pellegrino. And welcome to all of you who've joined us online across the world. You are all extremely welcome. So, Richard, I'll kick off with you. Briefly tell us what has had the biggest impact for you over in Hong Kong.
Well, for us, it's not since February that we're going through this very problematic time. Hong Kong had, prior to that, a big disruption in business levels due to the civil unrest in the city. May, where we reopened in 2019, should have become, one of the most exciting periods for the restaurants. And of course, a month later, after the opening or the reopening, the civil unrest started. Due to that, a lot of people did not travel to Hong Kong, and business had an immediate impact due to that.
And Dominique, going over to you, what do you feel has been the biggest impact, whether for you personally or on your business in the last 6 months or so?
I always see a silver lining in some type of tragedy. And I don't know if I want to call it tragedy. Perhaps it's something that we all needed to experience to really so we can refocus as a company, but also as a whole. I think gastronomy is a family, and we need to really work together to better the future of what we are going to be looking for. And I'm excited also for 2021, because we are going to the 10 years anniversary of Atelier Crane. So those 7 months really help us to really rethink about where we want to go. So this is where we are right now.
Thank you. And Tim, what's been your experience, your personal experience and impact?
Well, we did, out of the 10 restaurants I'm operating, 4 of them are cruise ships. So right now they're still not really existing. I opened the first one last week, but with the main restaurant, we switched within days from being a fine dining restaurant, occupied by guests, 80% of the guests coming around the world, just traveling to step over and to come and have dinner or lunch with us, that we were a local restaurant where we had to feed the people in just our city. And for us, the most important thing for Marie and me was that we focused on the payment for our employees, because, to be honest, we have a strong social system in Germany. So the government gave they call it in German Kurzarbeitsgeld. It means that we had a short working payment. So every employee gets 60% of their payment from the government. And we made the 40% gap with the takeaway concept, which we realized. And we directly go in that we made out of our 5 concepts, which 4 of them are casual, bring in. And that made us don't lose money within the last months. And we were able to pay all the employees in the main restaurant. And absolutely, it was 6 months of a new kind of a life, which gives us the idea what can happen if people cannot travel anymore, if airplanes are not flying anymore, something which I never expected, if you ask me that, in January or February, beginning that year.
And Julia, what do you think has been the biggest impact on you and on Mirator?
Actually, for us, it was French government did the same thing as German government. So they took care of people, so of employees that could not work. So they took part of the salary also, and we did the same thing as Tim. So we paid the 100% of the salary, but we were, of course, very worried about our staff. As Dominique says, for us, Mirator is a family. So to protect our staff, to protect our guests, to rethink a lot of things, the way we work, the way we welcome our guests, the way we treat nature. So for us, it was a big moment of reflection for everything.
Well, let's pick up on that moment of reflection, because I think it's really important, to look at, as Dominique said, some of the positives. Richard, when you've been open and shut at various points, but have you had the chance to stop and reflect further on how you operate, and also your personal philosophy, your personal culinary philosophy, I guess?
Well, we just came freshly out of an opening, so we have worked for more than a year prior to the opening on the new direction for Amber, how we wanted to evolve as a business. We run for 15 years a highly successful restaurant, and for me, passing the age of 50, I said I'm going to surf the wave, or I'm going to challenge myself and sort of develop the restaurant into a new direction. And we had a lot of time to sort of think of how do we want Amber to evolve. I think the great thing is that it actually totally confirms everything we've been through. It has confirmed how important the values that we have instilled in that period into that new direction that we want to work. The importance of sustainability as a cornerstone of our business, social inclusion, and so forth. So I think that going first through the social unrest and then through COVID, back to back, has totally confirmed that we are on the right track. And we as restaurant holders, we have always offered the most beautiful ingredients. We always wanted to serve the most beautiful 6-kilo turbo, of which there are less and less. We wanted to serve the most delicious proteins to our guests, but we never thought, the ethical part of all that, And for us in the new Amber, that is now so important. And it just, going through these crises, it has just confirmed that we are touching really the right direction.
And Tim, similarly, this moment of reflection you've had, I know you've been extremely busy, evidently, but have you had a chance to rethink, personally?
I saw then in the way back to reflect that, as what Richard mentioned, that is absolutely mandatory, that the change we started a couple of years in being sustainable, seeing all our employees as a family, that this is mandatory for the future. And there's no way back to make the industry just looking for cash and the highest money you can make every day. It's more about to understand it's a social industry, what we do. We give to other people and we have to share.
And Dominique, for you touched on this in your introductory statement, but would you like to expand on that in terms of the reflection and the rethink, this chance to think perhaps that you've had in recent months?
Well, yes. I mean, we, as you know, we've been a champion of sustainability for a long time. And when it comes to the ecosystem, when it comes to the social system, I think what I'm trying to push, and we've been doing it, but when I'm trying to push also, not just for my restaurant, but for my industry in San Francisco, and to people to understand that we have to reconnect also with our own community to be able to succeed, and a restaurant, for a long time, there's amazing restaurant all over the world, and I understand we've been flying things from all over the world, but it makes you reflect that, the answer is in front of you. You're surrounded with product. I mean, not everywhere, but here in California, the answer is here. And we need to support the community of farmers. We need to cook local. It's very important. We need to also support, the food system in the United States is really, it's really troubling, And I believe that if you are giving the key of a restaurant, or if you build your own, or if you become a chef of a restaurant, the responsibility that you have is not just cooking great food. It's really understanding the purpose of that job that you've been taking. You have a lot of responsibility. Everything is connected to food. I call it that food is politic, and is also it's good or bad. And what we have done, and what we have seen in the United States with this pandemic is how weak America is about the food system. So we are here, and if we can, everywhere in the world, if we can do that in Germany, Hong Kong, or France, and people can see what restaurants do and how they take care of the people and also the food they're giving to the people, I think that could be a very powerful message all over the world. So it's been so inspiring to see chefs kind of also rethink about who they were a few months ago and who they want to become now. And there was so much more integrity and so much more willingness to not just doing you just craft, but to understand the ecosystem that you have around you, which is, you know, nature and humanity. So it's beautiful, you know. I mean, it's hard, but it's beautiful.
And we talked a little bit about the locality of produce, but there's also, as you mentioned earlier, Tim, locality of diners. And Julia admires a restaurant like many of you, of all your restaurants that have been a destination for people all around the world to come to in the past, then has switched to becoming more local people coming to the restaurant. How has that manifested itself, and is that is that going to be a permanent switch, do you think, for many people, that there is more focus on local diners? Julia?
Actually, yes. Menton is a really, let's say, lost city in France, because we are far from every big city. Well, Nice for 40 minutes, but it's we always been a destination. So we had people all around the world coming. We had maybe more international people than French people, and that's completely changed because all the borders were closed. And I had a lot of French people coming from Paris, from Marseille, from everywhere, and say, "Oh, I'm happy with the COVID because I had the chance to book at Mirror." Yeah. I heard a lot. It was incredible, and we are very happy to be able to welcome them. And I think it was something also that brings what Dominique said, that sometimes we need to think about to know also the local. In Mirazur, we have always worked with the local producers, the local suppliers. We try to help all the economically part of the area, people that do some smaller producers that need to survive and that do very good products. So I think to have local clients come for us, it's a big pleasure to know that they are discovering things that there's people in Côte d'Azur that didn't know Mirazur was in Menton. So it's
for sure. Yeah. I mean, it brings us on a little bit to the economic model of the future. As you know, you have to make money to survive, and to be able to have a voice, to be able to look after your team and your suppliers and so forth. Have you found that local market willing to invest in your restaurant?
Well, we are very fortunate in Hong Kong. We have a city of 7 million people, and a lot of those people are extremely wealthy. So it's a wealthy city. So yeah, that has significantly changed the way we do business. You know, we took almost for granted that our restaurant would always be, full 2-3 months ahead. And we had seen, between June and the end of the year that became much more difficult. And we were happy actually to fill the restaurant up most of the time on the day itself. So very different way of doing business for us. But, we kept the restaurant going. We kept all our staff on the payroll. We never made any sacrifices on that level. And we continued to focus on creating incredible experiences for our guests. But yes, the business model has evolved tremendously. And I'm very happy, actually. We have seen a significant increase of much younger clientele that we normally rarely had in our restaurants. It was sort of always a little bit of a tycoon sort of restaurant, so where the wealthy would spend their money, and I feel that we have become much more democratic in a way. It is the restaurant where people want to celebrate and feel good about when they have celebrated it here. So I think that is a very positive change for us as a restaurant.
I mean, there has been a lot of talk about casualization of dining and people returning to comfort food and things of that nature. Tim, have you found that? You have a range of casual restaurants and a higher end restaurant as well. What's your experience there?
Yeah, we had a lot of experts which told us that fine dining will be dead after the pandemic, and absolutely the other way went straight on the street. So it means like the fine dining restaurants are running better than ever before if they're reopened, and the casual places, they have a lack on consistency in the occupancy. And if you go on the easy, like the street food areas, they are really they're in a bad mood at the moment, because what changed through the pandemic was that people, especially in Germany, where they didn't have the focus on buy good food and cook it at home, it changed dramatically. And so these days they think twice if they go in a corner restaurant which is average, or if they cook at home.
And I mean, there has been much talk about people wanting comfort food, if you like, or even fine dining recipes, old familiar recipes or favorite recipes, and some restaurants have revived old recipes. Julia, in Admirazur, Mauro introduced an entirely brand new menu on reopening. How has the reaction been to that? He went the other way.
Actually, yes. During this quarantine time, our house is in the garden, so we spend really 8 weeks in the garden. So and we spend 8 weeks actually looking to the nature and seeing how it grows, how it works, and that make him think a lot. And we changed completely our menus in 4 different menus. With the lunar calendar inspiration that we use in biodynamics, so leaf, roots, fruits, and flowers. And people, I think that people that are coming out to the restaurants, they come because they want to be happy. They want to taste something, they want to discover. And for us, it worked very well. They came and they was happy with all new things, and to discover things, and to talk with us, and to exchange, to share our philosophy.
Mm-hmm. So in cultural terms, and we've touched a little bit on this, but has the hospitality sector become a more inclusive and diverse and balanced culture, or are we kidding ourselves if we think we've made significant progress on that? Richard, you've always had a progressive outlook on this, but what's your feeling in terms of the inclusivity and diversity within the industry?
Well, we definitely, the industry has become much more inclusive. Yeah, there is no doubt about it. If you look at our gender balance in our operation, we are pretty much 50-50 all the time, and it sort of jumps day on. And it's not that all the girls are in the pastry. You know, we have girls working the hot section. We have all nationalities in our kitchen, so it's a very, very diverse bunch of people. They all choose to be part of the Amber team, and they all want to contribute. So I think, you know, things are evolving for the better. You know, we've been in Hong Kong going through some very, very rough time. In the US, you're going through very similar sort of movements right now. You know, we're not out of the woods yet, but I do believe that that we will come through this better.
Dominique, in the US, obviously the US is at the forefront of a lot of discussion and protests and around racial justice in particular, which is, you know, impacts all society, but including the hospitality society sector. How do you feel? Do you feel that there is positive movement in the right direction in terms of racial justice in hospitality, or do we still have a huge distance to go?
I mean, it's been fascinating. It's been inspiring. I got to tell you, I've been to a lot of protests, and because I believe that everybody needs to have a voice, and I believe that we can't stop. We got to stop being silenced, and we have to be a part of the change also, and to come to the table and be able to help each other to understand who we are and where we want to go, you know. And we needed that. We needed that, you know. We needed, you know, America was built in it's almost on something that it was almost a lie, you know. And when you dismiss a type of people, you know, because they don't look like you or they don't come from the same, you know, country that you come, it's alarming, you know. And so of course something's gonna happen, and this is what happened. So, but the history have shown that when you have a pandemic or any crisis in the world, you're gonna have people that are gonna come to the street and gonna start to speak up, and this is what's happening. And maybe we needed that, you know. So I mean, I'm excited about the future. I'm excited about learning more about things that I don't know. I'm excited about working with people that I've never worked with in the past. I'm excited about getting new ideas, and I'm excited to see the world that understand that we need to respect each other. And I think if we have that, if people understand that we need to respect the other, doesn't matter where you come from or your ideas, or even in a restaurant, there is, for a long time, we think that we are a community, but it was a lot of like, oh, I'm better than you and all that. No, it's just like, you do your thing, I do my thing, and I respect you. And if we can come to that place of inviting and respecting others, I think we can do something so much more bigger. And I'm excited about it. So about that.
Okay, and just to change tack for a moment, all of your restaurants in different ways have moved more towards plant-based or vegetable-led cuisines, or in Tim's case, health has always been high on the menu at restaurant Tim Raue, this lighter, healthier cuisine. But do we think that is going to spread through into society as a whole, or is it just the luxury of fine dining that can almost can do that because they can elevate vegetables and plant-based cuisines to that degree? Because there's a long way to go for the mainstream of society, perhaps, to understand about the meat consumption and what it's doing to the world. Dominique.
Well, I think it's not just the now. I think it's been a movement, and I don't know if it's a movement, but it's been really in people's mind for a long, long time. And I think perhaps this pandemic has helped us to really understand the need of doing this. One of my restaurants about a month and a half ago became a commissary kitchen to fight hunger in America. So in San Francisco. So I do about 2,000 meals a week for the homeless population in San Francisco, which is crazy, And everything that we do is all it's vegan and it's all plant-based, and and it's delicious, it's healthy. And I have to tell you, I was with Daniel Hom not a few days ago, and we were before he went to London, we were handing out the food that we were making at Petit Crenn, and there is this guy, is a homeless guy that came to us and said, I've been eating this food for the last few days, and I got to tell you, it's really delicious. And I was like, that just someone, that is probably used to just take food from the street or don't really have any food, understand the power of the healing part of that part. I'm not saying that everybody just needs to be a plant-based, but I do understand that we need to really understand that the industrialization of meat needs to stop. That needs to stop. We can't eat this way anymore,
Richard, you moved to more of a plant-based and gluten-free menu with the reopening of Amber. Do you think the pandemic has accelerated that trend and that awareness of or the movement away from meat? Or
for sure. We have shown that we need to live with nature and not crossing continuously the path of nature. We have spent significant efforts in the last few years in redefining our direction, and for us it was really about toning down the amount of protein that we were serving, eliminating completely the amount of dairy out of it. That is a 35,000 kilo that we are preventing from being shipped from Europe to Hong Kong. We have increased the ratios of protein towards vegetables. We have only focused when we serve meats or fish that they have been ethically caught or ethically raised. And in a city of Hong Kong, which is such a city of excess, that we have found a buy-in into this concept is an incredible milestone for Hong Kong. Hong Kong is one of the largest protein consuming cities in the world. We are the largest consumer of Brazilian beef, and everybody is watching TV and wondering why we're cutting the forest in Brazil. And so we at the top, we need to make change. So I am extremely positive of how actually COVID actually has helped us sort of emphasizing on the importance of changing our habits.
And Tim, you were, as I mentioned earlier, kind of ahead of your time in focusing on health in some ways from your early days. Have you seen the world catching up?
Yeah, I kicked out 2007 all dairy products, white sugar, gluten in any way, rice, noodles, potatoes, starch products, and even bread from the menu. And it was not easy in these days, to be honest, but I stick to the plan because I believe that someone coming in my restaurant has an 8-course menu. I have to send them home without having like 2 or 3 schnapps at the end. And feeling much better. And what I see very critical is the way to make a substitute instead of like beef, using vegan industrial products, which are lookalikes of a hamburger or lookalikes of a sausage. And if you watch then what it contains, it's even the same industrial shit like frozen pizza and all the rest. So it is absolutely that you watch out for nutritional food, which you can have with linseeds, you can have it with vegetables, but don't substitute to industrial.
What do you have a message for diners out there thinking about traveling again maybe next year? What are your hopes and dreams for the change in consumer habits and travel habits?
I feel that the consumer and the traveler will be more interested about what is the value of the restaurant, what they're serving, who they are, what kind of, what is their personality, but also is what kind of food, is it a restaurant with a purpose? Are they locally, is it healthy? Is it delicious? Is it bringing something to the community? And I think that's going to go there because, what I feel is now is people have understand, especially the young generation, they know everything. They know more than we know. And when I listen to 18 years old or 19 years old talking to me about the food system and the ecosystem and nature and the planet, you just listen to them and you're like, wow, they are the people they are the future, and they are the people that are going to come to the restaurant and spend their money. And like I said, a long time ago, is money that is going to be spending, it's going to be an act of activism from those people. So when you go to a restaurant, people are going to really want to know where their $10 or $100 or $1,000 go. Is it just to have fun, or is like, oh well, I'm giving them $1,000 today with my family, and I know that money is also spent nicely and with a purpose around. They're supporting the farmer, they're making sure that their team is well taken care of. There is, everything is biodynamic or organic, and it's locally sourced. I think it's going to go this way, and this is very exciting for me.
And Richard, what do you think the restaurant of 2021 and beyond? How is it going to feel different to the diner fundamentally?
I think the restaurants that will evolve with time and question their practices will survive. I think those who are stuck in time will be rooted out because of people don't want these type of restaurants anymore. I think, it's like everything. If you look into the luxury industry, everything is evolving. If you look at Chanel and Berluti, they would never make sneakers 15 years ago. Today they make sneakers. So there is something that we need to learn from that, is that luxury and luxury experiences are evolving. So, and so do we. We as an industry have to evolve, and we lead the path. We have the opportunity to give the direction to a large amount of chefs and also consumers in changing their way of cooking, but also in changing their consumer pattern. And I think that is a great opportunity that is given to us. So, and that is something that I really, much more than ever before, is what I want to see as my legacy. I will do this for another 10 years, but in 10 years, I want to make a change, and I want to make that change by planting that seed on a daily basis in the minds of my team, the guest speaking I do at hotel schools and so on, is trying to make a difference and show that you can create an exceptional luxury experience with a lot of personality, but by also doing the right thing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining us. So thank you to each of you. Thank you to Julia Colagreco from Mirazur, to Richard Ekebus from Amber, to Tim Raue from Restaurant Tim Raue, and to Dominique Crenn from Atelier Crane. We very much appreciate your insights in this session on the evolution of restaurants as part of Food Meets Hope by San Pellegrino. Thanks to all the participants in this edition of Food Meets Hope by San Pellegrino, and to you all for watching online. Food Meets Hope continues in the form of a series of interviews with top chefs on Instagram Live over the next few days. At 5 p.m. UK time today, so that's in approximately 1 hour, tune in to 50 Best Instagram channel to hear from Swedish chef Bjorn Frantzen. Tomorrow we will be joined on Insta by the dynamic Hong Kong chef and restaurateur Mei Chow. And then on Thursday it's the turn of the one and only Daniel Hume of 11 Madison Park. And if you haven't already, do please pre-register for tomorrow's edition of 50 Best Talks, Rewriting the Menu, presented by Mila. Details on our website and social channels as usual. On behalf of 50 Best and San Pellegrino, thanks for being part of Food Meets Hope.